Hello everyone, welcome to History Forge. My name is Taylor Hamlin. I'm going to be reviewing a National History Day essay today. As you can see right here on the video, I got the essay already up. It's called 17 Years, Developing the United States Coinage System. It's by Kellen Horde, junior division student. It's a historical paper. I get the paper length. So I'm going to review this essay very briefly just to kind of give students tips on what you can do. I picked this essay because it is a national winner, so they must be doing something right if they made it all the way through the regional contest, state contest, and eventually the national contest. So I'm just going to take a moment, review, and then hopefully that'll help out some students just kind of figure out like what they need to do. So I'm going to scroll down and just reiterate, I'm not going to have time to go through the entire thing, so I will go through the things I think are main points for students. But if you really want to read the entirety of the essay, feel free to go to the video description. I will copy and paste this link into the video description. All right, so moving down, we see here we got this little thing that says page 2. It's called pagination. Every essay needs to have it. If we look on the title page, though, there is no pagination. It doesn't exist. That's because actually all title pages are not supposed to have it. So make sure your essay has pagination. It should start right here, though, on the second page. It would be number 2. If you can't figure out how to do that, just feel free to message me or talk to a teacher. So going into the introduction, we see it's indented like it's supposed to be. It's double-spaced, Times New Roman, 12-point font. So again, if you're kind of confused on how to do those things, make sure you talk to your instructor. But again, that was 12-point font, Times New Roman, double-spaced. I'm going to read the introduction out loud, just to kind of go over what I'm seeing them do, and then these are things that you should also do in your own essays, or it's very highly recommended. So, beginning here. From the early 1600s to the late 1700s, the monetary system of the 13 colonies was so dysfunctional that basic transactions required cumbersome mathematical calculations, specialized almanacs, and extensive knowledge of foreign coinage weights, measures, and values. So, we always tell students to pick a very interesting first sentence. This one is very content heavy, which is fine. It's got a lot of it tells us the time period too. So from the very get-go, I know exactly what the student's talking about. I know that we're looking at this time period right here, the 1600s to 1700s. 13 colonies makes me believe that's the American colonies. So I know the place now, I know the time, and I know the subject. We're talking about economics because they're mentioning a lot of economic terminology. So like right here it says coinage. Talking about the weights, measures, and values. Talking about transactions up here. The monetary system is just another word for the economy. So we have a lot of understanding right from the get-go. The sentence itself doesn't necessarily shock you. It's not bringing you in. So that's something that could have been worked on, I would say. But for the most part, it's a very good first sentence. It does the most important thing. It tells the readers what's happening. Like, what's the time, what's the place, and what are we talking about. If you can also make it interesting and shocking or something that would draw readers' attention, we definitely want to try that too, but those first 3 things are more important. All right, so going on, right here, it says once the Declaration of Independence was signed, one task of the Founding Fathers was to develop a coinage system and a mint for the new nation. So this sentence is telling me more about what the conflict is. So we're talking about like one of the big things the Founding Fathers wanted to do was talk about the coinage system. So again, they are developing their topic. They are telling me what the main conflict is now, and that is developing some kind of system for money. Then we have here, it says between 1776 and 1792, again, giving us more time period. The process of developing a coinage system and a mint was rife with conflict and compromise within the government. So right here is where they're beginning their thesis. They are starting to tell me that there was a problem during this time. The word rife means that it was just, filled with a problem. So the problem, so now I'm getting to a better idea of what they're talking about. They are going to talk about the deficiencies and maybe even the development of the money system of this time period. So they're going to probably give me a little bit more. I'll read that last part. The result of these 17 years was a reassertion of American sovereignty, a national mint, and a coinage standard that has lasted for hundreds of years. So again, they're giving me more of their thesis. They're talking about what is the cause and effect. The cause is that the money system had a problem with it. That's the conflict right here. And then they said, well, the result, though, was probably a lot of compromising that resulted in a reassertion of American sovereignty. So they're basically saying Americans reasserted their, ability to be free Americans. So right here is their thesis. It very clearly tells me, not only the time period, the cause, gives me an effect, and they even work in the theme. Last year's theme was conflict and compromise. So they did a great job with their thesis. It's a couple sentences long, which for a paper about this size is what you want. So that's what you want your thesis to be. You want it to have a cause and effect. You want to link it to the theme. And remember, the rest of the paper then would be describing that. So notice that in this very first paragraph, they actually don't tell you anything about the organization that's coming. You can do that in another paragraph. So like down here, this student chose to do these little sections, which is fine. If you want to write little section titles like the money before independence, right here they're giving us section titles. If we notice the dates, this is probably going to be background information because this is before our time period. So they're giving us context. They're telling us a little bit about the subject so we have a better understanding of what's actually happening. So we want to do that too. So I'm going to write here context. I'm going to do my best to... Sorry, I'm spelling with a mouse. Handwriting's kind of crazy. So we want to provide context. And you can read this paragraph yourself now, kind of figuring out, like, okay, well, what did they do to give us context? Oh, wow, the pen actually doesn't make it move. That's annoying. All right, I'm going to refresh. There we go. All right, so we're down here again. Like, we're going to be providing context, so we're just giving information on what led up to the event. So if you're going to do the same thing, you're going to have to give some kind of information. So for example, if you're doing like an individual, like the student I'm making this for is doing Hugh Glass, so I'll say that one. The Hugh Glass, like how are you going to lead up to like the mountain men myth? Like what was happening before Hugh Glass that led up to him even coming out there? Like why is Hugh Glass like so famous? Why was he out west in the first place? You would want to spend a paragraph at least describing why he's out there. If we look at this paragraph too, we notice that they're giving us more time period information. And look at this, they're giving us a quote now. They say right here, as the, I have no idea how to say that word, numismatic, maybe? As the numismatic historian Pete Smith explained, quote, mercantilist thought held that a nation's wealth rose and fell in direct proportion to the amount of physical gold and silver held within its boundaries, end quote. You see how they have this little footnote right here, this number 1 right outside their quote, and then down here is another number 1. You want to do the same thing. You need to make these footnotes. I would say a good, a paper that's going to make it to nationals would probably have anywhere between 30 to 40 footnotes for an 8-page paper this size. Your footnotes just tell the reader exactly where you're getting your information. So in this case, where are we finding this quote? If I look down here, it says Pete Smith, Joel Orzaz, and Leonard Augsburger. And then right here it says 1792, Birth of a Nation's Coinage, Ivy Press, 2017, page 3. So if I ever wanted to check this quote, I could look at this book and look at the footnotes and figure out whether or not the student's actually telling me the truth. Is there a quote actually there? And that way I can check their resources. You need to do the same thing. So again, if you're going to be an essay that tries to get to nationals, I would at least say 30 to 40 footnotes is going to be a requirement. Like you're going to want to make sure that you are doing a very good job of saying where are your quotes at. So you can kind of see there's a footnote right here. They're giving us more context information. Let's see what my time's at 8 minutes. I'm going to keep going. You see the rest of the footnotes here. They're kind of sprinkled throughout. If you don't know how to make a footnote, they're pretty simple to do. I have a footnote video actually you can watch. They're very simple. If you don't know how though, again, come talk to me if you're my student, and then if you're with another teacher, talk to that other teacher. And you see how they have the different footnotes here. So every single time it's a new book or a new article, new website, whatever, you need a new one. So scrolling down, we'll see that there's another paragraph about context. And then we have a new section now, the first steps forward, 1776 to 1782. And again, this is just another way of them telling us, like, okay, we're moving on to a new section. It's kind of helping with transitions. And so now we're probably getting into the thick of it. So something I noticed that this student's probably never actually gets into organizing their thoughts. Like they never tell you in the beginning like how they're going to prove their argument. And that's not a terrible thing, I suppose. A lot of teachers will tell you, like, and I've told my students this, that you want to in the beginning somewhere at least explain like what's your sources, what information are you going to use to help prove your argument. The student's not really doing that. They're really relying on their footnotes. And so again, it's not end-all be-all. This student obviously got first place, and so if you want to spend more of your time doing the analysis part, since you only have 8 pages, that also is not a bad way to go. I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm going to see if I can hunt one down. Again, you can read this paper if you want. Like, I really recommend reading this paper just to see what a national winner looks like, to borrow structural ideas, to see kind of what the expectation would be. I'm looking for. I'm not seeing one. I know it has one. Sorry, I'm looking for a certain kind of footnote. Really impressed is that the student's using a very wide variety of footnotes, which is really good. You can kind of see now I'm on page 7, and we're already on footnote 26. So the student's probably got at least over 30 footnotes. Yeah, we're on 31 now. There it is. Found one finally. So we're on 36 footnotes. I'm actually going to see how many footnotes they have total. They have 42, so yeah, like I said, like 30 to 40 is about what I expect. Notice that these things say IBID. IBID's a really interesting way to do footnotes. It basically means that the footnote before it is the information. So like instead of repeating Smith, et al., 1792, Birth of a Nation's Coinage, page 19, saying IBID means that you're just repeating the information. You're repeating the source. Here's the deal, though. You can only do it if the footnote right before it is the exact same source. And in this case, this IBID means that it's the exact same footnote. Notice that this one says IBID 2, page 27 to 30. So this means that it is Smith, et al., 1792, Birth of a Nation, but the pages are different. So IBIDs are just kind of ways to save you time and save your readers time. They don't want to read through all that stuff. So it's just kind of a quick way. So if you have footnotes that come from the same source that are right next to each other, you can use the IBID method. If you can't figure it out by just looking at this or listening to my description, come ask me, or again, ask your teacher. They'll help you out with it. But that was the last kind of source I want to show you. You know, scrolling down, we look at it, again, this student has 42 footnotes, so that would be about the expectation. I can't stress this enough. Read this essay. It's going to not only help you understand something about American history, it's also going to help you understand like what a good essay will look like. So scrolling down too, we have another thing. We have something called an appendix. It's a completely separate page. The appendix, it can be really anything you want it to be. It could be a chart, it could be a picture, or it could be pictures like this student has. So if you want to dump pictures in here, you can, but you have to describe it. You can't just like randomly dump things. So like in this case, the student's saying, this is an example of a table used by colonists and merchants to calculate conversion rates of various currencies from around the world. The appendix does not count towards your word count for National History Day, so you can't really do any analysis down here, but you can describe what it is just like this student did. Scrolling down, we have another appendix. Again, you can kind of see that they're just describing it. And then we get to the annotated bib, and this is one of those things that I really recommend to students. Like, if you want to do well at the state level, if you want to do well at any level of competition, look at the people that have come before you, see what they've done, and really try to get in their head like, oh wow, yeah, I can see how like they describe their sources. I should do the same thing for mine. So, you know, you can see these things are, I'm counting at least 2 sentences. Their sentences are detailed. Copy the structure exactly, and you won't go wrong. So I'm going to end it there just because, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can review yourself. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll end the video saying this. I can't stress this enough. Please read the essay on top of watching this video. It's going to help you understand how to make a better paper. But that's it for me. If you have any questions, feel free to type them down in the comments. Look at the video description too, because I'll have the essay PDF there. The link there. If nothing else, have a great day. Take care.